Hello and welcome to another episode of Community Connections airing on OROMIA11. I am your host, Anna Orr, and today we are talking all things predatory lending. Don't worry, this is going to be a good episode of giving you some resources, some tools, and some guidance you probably didn't expect. Stay tuned. Jeremiah, thank you for joining me on this episode of Community Connections. I'm excited to talk to you about the work at Exodus and the war on predatory lending.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Can you introduce yourself to our viewers and talk to us about your role at Exodus Lending?
Well, my name is Jeremiah Fuller. I am Director of Programming and Lending at Exodus Lending. Simply put, what that means is I help to oversee and manage the programs, also create programs to create fair lending for people that come to Exodus and look for our services.
And can you talk about the work that Exodus is doing across the greater metro area currently?
So currently, Exodus is in the fight against predatory lending. Predatory lending is considered federally anything over 36% interest. In the state of Minnesota, there's 247% interest on the average $300 payday loan. So our job is to combat that. We do that through a couple of ways, through programming and through advocacy with our partner, Minnesota's for Fair Lending.
Now, you talked a little bit about what predatory lending is. Can you talk about how Exodus came to be and how you guys began navigating this work?
So originally, we actually were founded in a local church, Holy Trinity Church in South Minneapolis. They had a payday lender move into their neighborhood, and so their parishioners began to complain about being stuck in the debt trap and trying to find a way out of it. So as a community and as a church, they raised money initially to help those in need. Eventually what happens is after a few years, Exodus kind of spawns out because they wanted to make sure that everybody was reached. People weren't deterred by necessarily the religious. So they moved out and began the fight, fighting through advocacy and continuing to expand into a nonprofit that continues to serve Minnesotans.
Okay. Now, for people that are unfamiliar with what predatory lending is, can we talk about some of the businesses that were preying upon community people here in the Twin Cities, some of the companies and things like that? Because I think people hear the title predatory lending and then they're like, but what does that look like day to day and how does that show up in our communities?
So it shows with our community is places like Payday America, they have a payday loan. Places like Unbank, they have a payday loan as well, where what they do is they put up a big sign. They go to places where people who may be impoverished, going through everyday circumstances, not as much money, not as enough access to the world of banking or dealing with just financial trauma. They go there and they offer them something knowing that their back is against the wall. So oftentimes people needing money to get food, to keep roof over their head, car repairs, just anything that you could think of that somebody might be struggling with, they seem to be a great option. What they do is they tell you, we make a promise that we can get you this money overnight, and they start this process. In that process, you're hit with absorbent fees. You are also hit with being expected to pay whatever you had, what you didn't have, within 2 weeks. From there, they take it out your paycheck. If it's not there, what happens? Your bank's hit, your bank account's hit, different things happen. They target people knowing that they'll be back 8 to 10 times, understanding that they may not either be aware or that they have no choice, and so they must keep coming here.
Now, when we think about what that looks like day to day in our communities, we just survived the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah.
So a lot of people's finances are being hit. A lot of people are trying to strategize as how they can deal with 40% inflation. How do they navigate basic needs for day-to-day living? Mm-hmm. And when we see these companies that you mentioned, payday loans, Unbank, in our communities, it looks like they're coming to help us to save the day, to realize we're having these issues. But how many of us really navigate that these companies are not in the suburb areas. They're not doing nearly as many numbers as they are in underserved populations, affecting communities of color.
Yeah, so they predominantly have been targeting across the United States people of color, but they also do target poor whites and people that live on the outskirts that don't have as much access to things. And so it's important that we understand that these companies have realized for a very long time throughout our country that underserved people are often unprotected. And so they go and they've done their things, and they've gone after people that are just looking for help. They're not looking for a handout, they're looking for help. And that's the difference. It is our job, and what we do at Exodus is to be an advocate for them and to step in the gap.
I think that's very important. Now, we've talked a little bit about predatory lending. Can you talk to me about some of the work that Exodus is doing to promote financial stability? So for people that are uninformed about how to unravel this giant mess that they may be encountering via predatory lending, can you talk to us about what the financial stability side of that looks like?
So what we do is we do have a refinancing program. So up to $1,500, we will refinance any of your payday loans at 0% interest, 0 fees, 0 judgment. We do very little underwriting. So eligibility requires you to be a Minnesota resident, to have 1 month's worth. So you need to actually have a payday loan for at least 1 month. And then also must have a source of income. But that source of income can be either a paycheck, SSI, pension, whatever way that we would be able to track that for you, we will work with you for that to happen. The other thing is we work with a few partners. So like LSS Financial Counseling, that when you come to us and you're in these dire needs and things are happening, we are able to connect you with someone that will be able to walk you through a process and help you understand credit, help you understand maybe some more of your options. We also partner with a number of different nonprofits to bring resources and to connect you to whatever you need.
I think that's really important. Now, I often love asking people that appear on the show this question: how do you personally connect to this work?
Personally is actually when I first moved back to Minnesota. I moved back to Minnesota from New Jersey with my mother. I did what most young people do is I had my first job, got my first place, and spent all my money on shoes and whatever else I thought I could. I had to pay rent. I go to my mother. I say, "Mom, can I borrow some money?" She says, "I'm not a bank." And I say, "Okay, well, what can I do?" And my mom says, "Well, there's a place up on Broadway." So I walked about 1.5 miles and I went and got this loan. Fortunately for me, there was somebody to step in who, when they found out about it, helped me pay it off and helped me understand the urgency of it. But I remember, and I never forget, seeing the place being filled. And Cub Foods was across the parking lot. Mm-hmm. And I remember watching moms and children leave there and taking the money and walking across the Cub, or walking across to the car shop across the street to get their car repaired. And so for me, becoming aware of what was going on, I became invested in, number one, making sure that my community understood that the people here, although they seem like they're in your favor, they're trying to take advantage of you. Number two, it was important to me to be a part of the solution. And Exodus is the solution. This is, in my words, free love, right? And oftentimes people, one of the things we deal with is people can't believe it. They want to know what it is we're gaining from it. And it's, no, we're here to help. We're looking to be in service to people. And so the goal is that we take this and we pass it on.
Mm-hmm. I think that's very important. Now, we've talked a little bit about how predatory lending has affected underserved communities all over the country. But can you help us kind of navigate what that looks like, or directly how that affects long term? So not only does that affect your credit score and your ability to maybe get a car or get an apartment or a home or things like that, or maybe a student loan down the road, the ripple effects of this are not just a one-time thing. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So there's so much money in our communities. And the unfortunate thing is when you're stuck in this cycle of dealing with predatory debt, the emotional trauma of it, not being able to kind of see clearly how to get out. As you said, dealing with credit, loss of ability to be able to get other access to other things. Moreover, some of the bigger things, and one of the biggest things I think is, and it kind of cripples your ability to take care of other things that matter. You know, the average payday loan in the state of Minnesota is $300 with an average of 247%, which for most people ends up growing to thousands of dollars they end up paying off.
Can you say that again? Because I don't think people are going to necessarily catch that the first time they hear that.
So the average payday loan in Minnesota is $300 with an average interest rate of about 247%. And what that means is that, number one, that $300 is expected to be paid. That 240% is expected to be paid with that. But if you can't pay it now that rolls over. So you need another loan. So that's another fee. Then there's late fees. Then there's another service fee. So all these things combined that just keep building and building and building. And now what was a small problem turns into a huge problem. And what do you do when you can't, when it seems like there's nowhere to go? People turn to different things and different alternatives. And so altogether, this affects a person and a human. There's guilt and shame. There's so many people that think that this only happens to them. And the reality is it's happening all over. There's Minnesotans every day who are walking down the street who was just trying to get out of a simple problem. Whether it's getting medication for my child, being able to pay for insurance, being able to pay for cars, and all the things that come with some financial traumas. But the emotional trauma, most of all, is what's affecting us and our inability to feel like we can get beyond this. It's like a hope killer.
I think we don't often think about how impactful financial literacy is on the front end.
Yes.
And so oftentimes we don't start learning about it until we find ourselves in a financial crisis of some sort.
Right.
And then we're trying to navigate our way out of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to know that Exodus is partnering not only with community members, but also with other businesses and programs to reach as many people as possible about this really important problem.
Absolutely.
On a large scale. Can you talk to me a little bit about some of the successes Exodus Lending has had to date?
So to date, our biggest success right now is one of our sister companies that is under us, Minnesota's for Fair Lending, under the leadership of Director Megan. We actually got a 36% rate cap in the state of Minnesota.
Okay.
Now it's 36% up to 50%. But what we did was it took us 10 years to get this passed. What that means is that in order for payday lenders to work in Minnesota, they have to have there's a list of requirements that are so stringent that it just doesn't make sense for them to operate. And so as of January 1st of next year, all payday lenders will be pushed out of Minnesota. So there will be no 36%, anything over 36% in Minnesota targeting our communities. That's our biggest one. Our refinance program is growing. One of the greatest things is the state of Minnesota has awarded us some money. They have taken this on as well for our loan pool so that we can serve more people and get more money back into the community. Those are our biggest ones, but every day we are working with Minnesotans who are dealing with loss of finance through cars, through these loans, through anything to help them get back on their feet. And I think reaching one person is just as good as reaching 100. But we are and have been in this business for about 7 years and reaching Minnesotans every day.
I think it's very important, and I think it's going to give a lot of people a new lease on life.
Yeah.
Once this actually goes into effect, where all of these companies will no longer be able to prey on people.
Yeah.
During this time. Now, I was perusing the website before I had you on today, and I saw that you all have a blog at Exodus. I think that's really progressive. You don't really hear too much about financial institutions that offer a blog to community members. Can you talk a little bit about what people would see if they navigated the blog?
A whole list of things, from financial resources to what's going on with Exodus to what's going on at the Capitol concerning predatory lending. Also, connection to our partners. There's just a whole host of things. We try to stay fresh, and we try to keep people up on what's going on. Even financial networks and workshops, and just connecting communities to more resources and better options than some of these payday lenders.
I think it's important because there are so many people who may never actually walk into the doors of Exodus Lending, but they still are able to benefit from the information and, like you said, the resources that you guys are offering.
Absolutely.
In the community. Now, please share with us any websites, social media handles, things like that for the larger scape that are interested in connecting with Exodus.
All right. So one of our best ways to contact us is through www.exoduslending.org, or you can email us at info@exoduslending.org. You can give us a call at 612-615-0067. Okay. You'll be able to reach us. If you go on Instagram and type in Exodus Lending, we have a tag there. It's pretty easy to pull up, so you can find us there and kind of find out also what's going on. Through our website, you can find our partners and some different organizations for resources as well.
Absolutely. And then for anyone that's interested in coming down to the location that is in the greater Twin Cities area, can you provide us with your address?
Our address is 2380 Wycliffe Street, St. Paul, Minnesota, 55114.
That's amazing. We had a guest on earlier this year that was offering services in North Minneapolis. So I wanted to make sure that for those that were not inside that, on that side of town, they would be able to receive resources as well.
Yeah, and I did want to say that we actually serve the entire state of Minnesota. So if you reach out to us, we can do enrollments, whether in person or via Zoom. Okay. So please give us a call, and don't be afraid to reach out.
Okay. And my last question for you is to look into that camera and to offer a word of encouragement or a request for someone to come in and utilize you guys' services. What would you say to them if they found themselves hesitant?
What I would say to you is, number one, don't be afraid. Sometimes things look dire, and sometimes things look like you can't make it. I am a person that believes that you look inward and you press through. The first step is just giving us a call. We will meet you where you are, and we will do our best to serve you and to make sure that you are taken care of. Me, Troy, our program coordinator, we are both hands-on people who love to serve the community, and we just want you to know that we're here for you and that we will walk you through the process.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much, Jeremiah, for the work that you do across the greater metro area, statewide, as you said. You guys are able to service our greater Minnesota area. And for the work that you are doing in the community, because this is so important and such a necessary topic. So thank you for joining me today on this episode of Community Connections, and I hope we get an opportunity to connect again soon.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, that is all the time that we have for today's episode of Community Connections. As always, I am your host, Anna Orr. A very special thank you to Jeremiah Fuller and his amazing team at Exodus Lending. It is my hope that something was shared today that you found encouraging and/or informational or educational to help you find a path to financial stability. He shared some amazing resources today, and hopefully you'll figure out a way to connect with them to help you navigate a better tomorrow. Thank you for joining us. I look forward to connecting again with you soon.